Hello fight fans, my name is John Pollock and this is Fight News Now Extra with John Ramdeen and Robin Black joining me as we discuss today's news. In the headlines, a UFC Hall of Famer signs with Bellator, the NAC responds to Wanderlei Silva, and Anthony Johnson is ready to rumble. With the John Jones versus Daniel Cormier bout being moved from September to January the 3rd of next year, it leaves two key light heavyweights with a lot of time on their hands. Anthony Johnson has now publicly issued a challenge to fight Alexander Gustafsson, who feels he is deserving of the next title fight after he was scheduled to fight Jones before tearing his meniscus. UFC President Dana White had recently noted that the fight between Johnson and Gustafsson would make sense to make. Ariel Helwani reported on UFC Tonight that a move has been made by the Nevada Attorney General to override Wanderlei Silva's motion to have his hearing and charges dismissed for evading a random drug test back in May. Last week, Silva was scheduled to have a hearing in front of the Nevada Athletic Commission, but his representative stated that Silva was not licensed at the time of the test and therefore didn't do anything wrong. After the May random drug test attempt, Silva did appear in front of the commission and admitted he had been taking anti-inflammatories and a diuretic ahead of his then scheduled bout with Chael Sonnen for UFC 175. Ryan Bader's last two opponents are set to square off on November the 8th as Ovince St. Preux and Rafael Feijao Cavalcante will fight in Brazil that night in an upcoming fight night card. St. Preux recently had his 5-fight win streak snapped by the loss to Bader, while Feijao hasn't fought since UFC 174 in June, where he was defeated by Bader by unanimous decision. And Bellator announced on Wednesday that they have come to terms on a deal with UFC Hall of Famer and Ultimate Fighter Season 1 alumni Stephan Bonnar. The 37-year-old retired and then was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame in 2013 with a 15-8 record, but his last fight was a black mark as it was the second time in his career that he tested positive for a banned substance, with drostanolone showing up in his post-fight drug test after losing to Anderson Silva. In the press release, it is clear that Bellator is working towards a fight between Bonnar and Tito Ortiz, with Bonnar stating that he is here to free the MMA world of the virus that is known as Tito Ortiz, and Ortiz responding that he will, quote, beat the juice out of Bonnar. And here we are with Robin Black and John Ramdeen, and just as we have moved on, Ovince St. Preux is getting ready. He's coming back. Two of Ryan Bader's last opponents are going to square off with Feijao. I'm sure you're counting down to November 8th.
I actually don't mind this because, you know,
what if this turns out to be the main event November 8th?
Yeah, then I'd be very, very disappointed. But it's an interesting matchup at 205 pounds. I think OSP, you know, coming off that loss, kind of has something to prove. Let's see how he will respond to losing to Ryan Bader. Feijao fighting in his own backyard. Hopefully he'll be fired up and look for the finish in this fight.
I can't remember. How did you feel about Bader versus OSP as a main event? Did you like that one? No, you didn't like that one?
I think, Ramdeen, that was not
How did the rest of the card play out?
Yeah.
When you look at that card, which fight was the least entertaining fight on the card? Without question, it was the main event, Ryan Bader, OSP. Again, no disrespect to those guys.
Has Feijao ever been in a boring fight?
Not
though?
really.
No, I know, it's
Not
good.
really.
Feijao's a great, great fighter. It'll be good to see him. It's a tough test for him. He's long and he moves really well. He uses his reach well, OSP. But Feijao will get in and put punches on his chin. Yeah. He'll have to respond.
Stephan Bonnar going to Bellator.
Awesome.
I think that this is the kind of move that, of course, you're going to get the vocal people out there. Oh, what are they doing?
Shit?
But here's the fact. Bellator is never going to have access to all of the top fighters in the world. That's just not realistic. They have to come up with very creative ways. They are not going to get a top 10 in any given weight class. They're going to get certain guys, your Michael Chandlers, your Will Brooks. You're going to have some of those guys peppered within your roster. But you do need to put together fights that are going to get some interest, that some fan who watches UFC every single Saturday night, hey, I'm going to watch something different on a Friday night. Stephan Bonnar, Tito Ortiz, guess what? Those are names people know, and Bellator, they've got to be deviating from the path the UFC is on. So I'm in favor of this.
I agree 100%, and I think you know, it depends on where we're going to see Tito Ortiz and Stephan Bonnar. And I think if Bellator is looking to have another pay-per-view, these are guys that you put on the pay-per-view, right? You're obviously trying to build the 205-pound division. You have King Mo, you have Quentin Rampage Jackson, and the big names like Tito Ortiz and Stephan Bonnar. And you have to make sure that these guys all face each other. So whether it's on your pay-per-view or it's the main event of one of your big Spike TV
UFC
shows.
Hall of Fame Grand Prix,
Yeah, exactly.
presented by Bellator.
Yeah.
I don't know
Get
exactly
Randy?
what our job description is, but I think I'm supposed to play devil's advocate here.
Sure.
But I got nothing. No. I really like it. If you're really looking for something to complain about, maybe it's that Tito Ortiz has really damaged his body. Are we taking guys that are so far past their prime?
Is that your responsibility?
We're risking no, but I mean, is it something we should think about? Is it something we should talk about? But the fight itself...
It concerns me with Tito Ortiz.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, that's a guy, when you hear that he's had that amount of fusions, neck, back, we're not talking about a bad knee
fractured
here,
skulls,
or a broken hand. I mean, this is a guy that has had serious, potentially long-term debilitating injuries.
But even that one, it's like I go to bat for fighters who do want to fight. I do. I think we should discuss it. Exactly. We should discuss it. We should have them discuss it. Doctors should look at him. But ultimately, I believe it's their choice. And when you do talk to Wanderlei Silva, he will tell you, I know there is a price to pay for the life that I chose. We can't go about telling fighters they must stop. A doctor can say you're not medically cleared. But we can't go about doing that any more than we can go about telling people you're not allowed to eat sugar anymore. I mean, diabetes kills a lot more people than concussions do. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's a bit dicey. But fight itself, it's a lot of fun. And both these guys have really embraced the idea that you got to put on a show. Stephan Bonnar is acting like a pro wrestler, doing a pretty good job of it, taking juice like a pro wrestler. So, you know.
Well, you bring that fact up, and it's like if you came up in that era with The Ultimate Fighter, I mean, that was such a pivotal fight for people, Forrest Griffin and Stephan Bonnar. And really, it was really this ugly way that Stephan Bonnar went out. It was the loss to Anderson Silva, but more that the drug test failure. And that was going to be the final chapter on Stephan Bonnar. So you would hope at least that he comes back and at least has some kind of positive way to end his career. Pardon the pun. But I think for a lot of fans, I mean, that to me was just a really ugly way for Stephan Bonnar to go out, where he really went out a cheater.
Yeah, you know what? We have talked a lot about the realities of steroid use. People be like, why are you guys so pro-steroids? We're not pro-steroids, we're pro-reality. And the reality was this was an environment in which some of these people to survive had to do something a lot of them did not want to do. And now the UFC is talking about taking legitimate, out-of-contest, real tests. And when that happens, we will be so anti-steroid. It's ridiculous because the playing field will be so close to even. Nobody should be on the juice.
All right. For Robin Black, John Ramdeen, I'm John Pollock. More Fight News Now Extra is coming your way.